Gentlemen, that's what we were looking for. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Black History Month program that is being jointly sponsored by the IKAN Start organization and Ivy Tech Northwest. Simply put, you're all here, hopefully, to learn something. We have three very successful champions who, within their own right, have been very successful. And it makes no sense to me why we start out on our journeys and we make mistakes when we have the wealth of knowledge in our community that can help us along the way to get there. We're all entrepreneurs and winners in one way or another. Hopefully tonight there will be some spark that will be lit within every one of us that'll give us the motivation to tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight, to get up and say, we're going to do it better than we've ever done it before, and we're going to be winners in our own right. Now, programs of this nature can't happen without a lot of support, both financially and morally and socially. I'd like to welcome the founder of the IKAN Start Corporation. He has a history of service back to his community. He is a Gary product, born in Glen Park, or arrived here and lived in Glen Park. Ate a lot of rolls and donuts out of the Glen Park Bakery. You all remember that? Well, there is the culprit that used to get run out of there every day as a young lad. But he is a person that we have grown to know, we've grown to respect, and we've grown to appreciate, because he cares about his community and he is determined to put nothing but the very best. I'm going to ask Dushan if he would come up, introduce himself, and just say a few words to us before we hear from our champions. Dushan.
And I specifically told Dr. Williams that I didn't want to get up here, but it's okay, thank you. He put me on the spot anyway. I really want to thank all of you for coming out here today. I want to thank the Chancellor from Ivy Tech for being a part of this. I want to thank the speakers for being a part of this. For those of you that know me, I could probably speak forever and you guys will run out. But I do want to share why I started these type of events very briefly. When I was a young man when I first started some of my business ventures, and many people withheld information from me, not purposefully, because nobody wants to go around and says, hey, I made a mistake. Hey, I failed in this industry, or I failed here. And I made so many mistakes in my business that if somebody would have shared some of their mistakes, I could have avoided and become more successful. But we have this tendency not to share. We have this tendency not to talk about our failures, or, pardon the expression, I call my F-ups, because I want people to understand we all have a journey in life. And along that journey, we're going to make mistakes. We're human. And my goal is to get people to talk about their mistakes along their path to success. And that is why I started these, and I'm going to continue to push these. It doesn't matter, at what stage and what venue. Next month, there's going to be three beautiful women that will be speaking about their journey, because March is obviously International Women's Month. So we're going to get women to start talking about their journey and some of their mistakes along the way to success. But really, I really appreciate all of you and all the support. Since you put me on the spot, I got to put one person on the spot too. Chancellor, would you come up and say a few words? Sorry, I have to pass the buck. He put me in the spot, so I figured I'd put you on the spot too.
Thank you, Dushan. I intentionally sat in the back because I didn't want to speak. So, for some of you who don't know me, my name is Louis Gonzalez, and I serve as Chancellor of Ivy Tech Lake County Campus. We have three campus locations: East Chicago, Gary, and Crown Point. And when I was approached by Dushan, And I said, well, let's do something in our hometown. We're proud of Gary. I'm proud of that. Grew up in Tolston and Brunswick area. And so when Dushan and I met, he says, let's do this. So we wanted to come home and have something here and to end Black History Month on a high note, right? So thank you to our speakers for being here today, and thank you for all of you, and especially our students. We have some students out here in the audience for being here as well. So again, thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Chancellor, so very much. Now, here goes the first giveaway. You all have these little red tickets. We're going to give away an all-expenses trip to Italy starting the first. Oh, no, wrong group. I'm sorry. That's another group. That's another group. Oh. Do you all have your tickets ready? Nina? You all got to meet Nina Marie. Come on, bring your. She's the black and white of Ivy Tech.
I say she's better than that.
Let one of you speakers pick for you. All right, now if you don't win, get mad at Mr. Tolbert here.
Last three, 073. 073.
Wow, didn't you just walk in? And that is for Dushan, a gift certificate, Amazon gift certificate. Okay, we're going to be doing more throughout the evening. Anybody have any questions before we begin? Any questions? Okay, let's get to the real meat of why we're here. Very first speaker is someone known to just about everybody in Northwest Indiana, and specifically here in Gary. Michael Tolbert. He's a partner at the firm of Tolbert & Tolbert. He's a graduate of Valpo University, where he received his law degree, and he got it cum laude. And he was the recipient of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers Award. Michael has numerous other accolades, including being the recipient of the 20 Under 40, the Indiana State Bar Association Rav Emerson Award, the NAACP's Hilbert Bradley Award, the Katie Hall, Congresswoman Katie Hall Foundation's Merit of Distinction Award. He was selected to the Super Lawyers List, an honor reserved for only the top 5% of litigators in the state of Indiana. Michael continues his community efforts with his involvement on the United Negro College Fund, Northwest Indiana Advisory Council, and is a member of the Northwest Indiana Urban League. Dr. McLeod, thank you. Where he also serves as her board counsel for the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Mr. Attorney Esquire Michael Tolbert.
Well, good evening, everyone. Got some feedback here. How does that sound? Is everybody okay? All right. How's everybody doing this evening? All right. My name is Michael Tolbert, and I was first of all, I want to thank Ivy Tech and IKAN for giving me an opportunity to address you and speak to you today. I was extremely humbled when Sharice and Deshaun reached out to me and asked if I would be a speaker for this program, because I am always just amazed that when people come to me and ask me to speak, it just baffles me, because I'm thinking that I still think I'm that kid that used to fight all the time. That people told me that I wouldn't end up being anything, that I wouldn't go to college, that I wouldn't be a lawyer, and when people ask me to speak, I always go back to that time. So I asked Deshaun, and I said, well, what do you want me to talk about today? And I said, do you want a PowerPoint? Because, you know, lawyers, we love PowerPoint. You know, we love putting exhibits and stickies and markers on everything. And he said, no, I don't want you to do any type of PowerPoint. I want you to speak from your heart, and I want you to talk to people about your journey and about some of the struggles that you had along the way and some of the triumphs that you had along the way and how you accomplished what you accomplished in this short, I'm 48 now, within this short time, some might say long time, on this earth. So, you know, the journey for me, when people kind of look at where I am now, you know, they see this Brooks Brothers suit, they see this clean bald head, they smell this Chanel cologne, you know. They see this cap of diamond, you know, I'm gonna have to this yo-yo, and see the introduction. I was like, he was winding up, and I thought he was gonna go to the greatest fraternity on earth, Kappa Alpha Psi, but he's like stopped short of it. So he must be a Q, or what? He must be something. But he stopped just short. With all the noobs in the crowd, you're supposed to go across the finish line, but you didn't. We're gonna forgive you for that though. But you know, my journey wasn't always a smooth one. You know, I wasn't always the man that you see before you today. You know, one of the struggles that I had early on was, you know, a lot of people don't know me unless you're really, really close to me, is I lost my mother at an extremely early age. I lost my mom when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And, you know, I was raised by my dad, pretty much for the majority of my life. I come from a very big family. It was like 7 of us. So you can imagine not having a mother in the home, not having somebody in the home to really kind of teach me about nurturing and about caring and about all the things that you need to be a well-rounded individual. So early on, I had a lot of anger. And I always tell people there were 2 things that I absolutely loved when I was a youngster that I knew I could do well. Sports. I could play football, I could play any type of sport you can put me in, I can excel at it. And I could fight. Hey, I could fight, you know, I fought so much that my father was like, this dude needs to go into karate. So he pushed me into karate with Master Dunlap. I don't know if he's here. I see my wife just walked in. You fellas, you always got to acknowledge your wife when she walked in, because I don't want to be on the couch tonight. And she is a big part of where I am today as a man and my growth and maturity as a man. So we're going to talk about her as well. But my father, you know, because I fought so much, he put me in a combat sport. So I started taking karate when I was like 5 or 6 years old, right around the time, naturally, is when my mother died. And all of that anger and energy was harnessed into karate. So I'm a black belt right now. Took karate for a number of years, but I still like to fight. And I fought so much to the point where it interfered, you know, with my interactions and my ability to develop relationships with folks. And I would even say that it even affected my grades, and it even affected my, I think, some teachers' perception of me as a person that could maybe become a lawyer, become a doctor. When you see a young man that's, you know, 10, 11 years old, and he's always fighting, and he has behavioral problems, then you don't necessarily think that that person could ultimately blossom into something great. And I see one of my mentors in the crowd, and also my fraternity brother John McLeod, and he was my math teacher at Ernie Powell, and he was one of the very few teachers that did not necessarily give up on me, and he would always encourage me and always make me believe that I can be somebody, no matter what obstacles were put in front of me. So, because of my behavioral history, I was not able to go to, you know, I hear when I'm walking around, and most of you who are from Gary, you went to Gary schools, right? So you went to Westside, you went to Roosevelt, you go to Horace Mann, you go to Word, you know, all Emerson, you have all of those schools that you name. But I, unfortunately, because of my fighting history, did not have that, did not have that luxury. My father thought it was safe for me because of my fighting ways to go to a school completely outside of my district, because he was trying to put me away from my friends and trying to take me out of the environment that, you know, would bring issues up. So I went to Calumet High School, away from my friends, away from everything that I had known. I had gone to Gary schools basically my whole life, all the way through Tolbert, and I'm at a completely new school, new friends, and for the first time, I'm like maybe the only black person in the classroom. It's a culture shock. So that was a little bit different for me. And then it introduced for me during that time different things. You know, you go from being at an all-black school to being in schools where now you have racism. Now you have people looking at you differently because of the color of your skin. You have people doubting you because of the color of your skin or where you're from. I had a teacher at Calumet that told me that I wasn't college material. That's what she told me. And even though I liked to fight, even though I had behavioral problems, I always loved to read, and I always got good grades. So there was this dichotomy and this inner turmoil that existed in me, because on one hand I'm this bad boy, but on the other hand I'm getting like A's and B's. So that was a little bit hard to explain to my friends when, you know, I loved to read and I had to hide books, and because it wasn't cool to be the tough guy that could read, right? So that was really tough for me in those earlier periods. So when I got ultimately played football, was able to go to Valparaiso University to play football. I was a wide receiver. Again, I told you I could play sports. I could catch that ball and I could shoot that ball. So football graciously got me to Valparaiso University. And by that time, now you go from Calumet to a whole nother situation. Now you are in Valparaiso University in the 90s. So for those of you who know how Valpo was in the 90s, you know, now it's like maybe 10 black people on the whole campus. And that was very difficult for me, and I struggled academically. For the first time in my academic career, I basically had bad grades. And that was tough for me because I had always aspired to become a lawyer. So you can't become a lawyer if you are barely passing your classes. So my father, and I always give credit to God first and foremost, because without God, I wouldn't be here today. But God also blessed me with a wonderful mentor in my dad. And my dad sat me down and basically said, hey man, if you want to become a lawyer, you got to get your grades together. So basically my first year at Valparaiso University was a throwaway year, and I had to dig myself out of a hole if I wanted to get my grades up. So for 3 years, that's all I did was play football and study, and I was able to get my grades up to get into law school. Just by the skin of my teeth, I got into law school. I was able to get in. So one of the things that I learned during that process was you should always take the energy. There's always negative energy that is going to be around you whenever you're trying to accomplish something great. And what I was able to do during my time at Calumet, during my time at Valparaiso University, was I was able to harness that energy and turn it into positive, constructive things. So I studied more. I focused more on football. And my wife, who's sitting right there, we met at Tolbert when we were in the 11th grade. So I continued to, 12 maybe? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I said it wrong, I apologize. We met when we were in the 7th grade, but I was 12 or 11 years old, so I apologize. Got that backwards. So you know, one of the things that I learned was always keeping positive people and role models around you, and keeping people that were positive like my wife around me, because she was able to bring things out of me that, you know, other people couldn't bring out of me if they were not on the same level. And she too wanted to become a lawyer, so I surrounded myself around like-minded people. And that's what I did basically once I got to Valparaiso. I really hit the road running after that first year and really put myself in a position to where I could be a productive member on campus and to get into law school. So when I got to Valparaiso University Law School, that was the toughest experience I ever had. Because if you like to read, you haven't read until you went to law school. Like, that's on a whole nother level of reading. You're talking about like 8 chapters a night. We're not sleeping. I mean, it was a very, very stressful situation. But the one thing that I learned about Valparaiso University School of Law is, I told you about my mother dying early on, right? I told you about all the anger issues I had early on, right? All the problems that I had. What I realized was God prepared me for that time. Everything that I went through up until that time taught me how to handle stress. It taught me how to handle pressure. It taught me how to handle relationships. It taught me how to get mentors. It taught me how to surround myself around people that were going to push me to excel. And for the first time ever, I wasn't playing a sport. I was like, man, look at all this free time I got, you know? And I ended up graduating with honors, cum laude at Valparaiso University School. So fast forward, and I'm almost done. I'm going to wrap it up because I know we got other speakers. But once I became a lawyer, I got hired at a law firm in town, and I remember telling my wife, it was a very prestigious firm in town. And they told me that it was the first time they had ever hired a black person. First black lawyer they had ever hired. And I'm just being honest. I was just like, you know what? I've been at Valparaiso for 7 years. I don't feel like knocking down this wall. You know, I really just go somewhere and just ride off into the sunset and be somewhere where it's going to be less comfortable. Because that first one, whoo, you know, that first one is always, that's a tough one, right? And I remember talking to my wife at her apartment, and she probably remembers this. And maybe she was thinking about the money. I don't know. I never know. But I remember talking to her, and I remember asking, I was like, you know, I don't want to do this. And she was like, you will do it. Because this is what God put you on this earth to do, to open up doors and to open up the next door for the next lawyer. So if you don't do it, then you're not fulfilling the mission that God has put you on this earth for. And that stuck with me, and I took that job, and that was probably one of the best decisions that I ever made, because all the things that I learned about becoming a lawyer and all the skills that I acquired during that time when I was at that firm. And the whole goal during that time, and it wasn't easy because I was the first one, so they weren't giving it away. I had to get it from the mud, right? So it was just, you know, very different being the only one and not having the support system. You know, I remember I was at a client meeting with one of our bigger clients. I was the only black person there. And I remember like it was yesterday, because I remember telling Shalise the story. All the lawyers lined up, and the client, it was an appreciation dinner. And the client went down the list and said, John Smith, he's a great lawyer, you know. They went down the line, and they got to me and skipped over me and went to the next person. And I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight, but by that time, I was a more polished person. You remember that, Shalise? Remember telling you that story? Yes. That's right. So, I drove back the same night. I was that upset. So it wasn't easy, but what kept me going was realizing that I was opening the door for the next African American lawyer. And I see Brother Eric Blackman in the house. He's the first African American Ross Township trustee. And yeah, give him a hand. And he too is opening up the door for the next person behind him. And that's what we should do. We should be trailblazers. We should knock down the door. We should open that door for people behind us, because we don't have the luxury sometimes of sitting back as African Americans. We don't have that luxury. We have to trailblaze, because if we don't trailblaze, that path for the next person coming behind us is going to be a little bit thorny and a little bit rocky. So we have to take the hit sometimes, and that's what I did. And once I realized that, life was still difficult, particularly practicing law, but when you understand the assignment, you're able to handle it a lot differently. So last thing I'll talk about is the quest to becoming, to opening up our firm in Gary, Indiana, Tolbert and Tolbert. So one of the obstacles that we faced when we were opening up our office in Gary, Indiana, was the perception that people had of lawyers and where they should practice. So you got to remember, by this time, I'm a full-fledged partner at a big, quote-unquote, corporate white firm. I'm wearing real nice suits. I'm getting a real nice paycheck. That paycheck is steady. I got clients. I got it all, right? I got it all. My wife is in the same situation at another firm, right? She has it all. She's doing, making money. We're partners. She's a partner at her firm. And we came up with the idea to quit those nice, cushy jobs and to go open up a firm in Gary. People thought we were out of our goddamn mind. Did I say that? That's not a curse word. That's not a curse word. Damn is in the Bible, I think, man. That's the book of Michaels, the James Jenkins version. Yeah, so. But people thought we were literally out of our cotton picking mind. You mean to tell me you're going to leave those good jobs where you're a partner, where you don't have to worry about nothing, and open up a law firm where? Where are you going to get clients? Where are you going to get money? What about money? What about? And what I had to realize is that when God puts something in your heart, it can't fail, and it won't fail. And when you have a woman like I got, I knew we were going to be all right, because I knew that if I go broke, she was going to be there with me. I remember telling her that. I was like, baby, the one thing I had comfort in, and I know if something happened, you're going to always be there for me. Now, I haven't had to test that, but I believe it, all right? But we had each other, and we had what God planted in our hearts. And we stepped out on faith. And we had to shut out a lot of noise. We had people telling us, we hired a realtor that basically wouldn't. He was like, you know what, y'all don't know what y'all want. Y'all, I'm not showing you anything in Gary, Indiana. I'm going to put you out in Crown Point. I'm going to put you out in Maryville, because that's where the business is. That's where the lawyers are. And we had to basically get rid of that person. And we found our location where we are now ourselves, driving down the street. So one of the obstacles that I would say that we had to face, that we had to overcome, is the perception of inadequacy. The perception that if you are from a certain area, or if you're going to a certain area, that you can't prosper and you can't thrive. But what you have to understand is that God created you, and you're wonderfully and awesomely made. We all are. God has created all of us distinct. Nobody's the same. So if God puts something in your heart to start something somewhere, you have to shut the noise out, and you have to do it, and you have to forge ahead. Because there's a reason why some people stay where they stay. And sometimes you have to leave people behind, and that's what we did. We had to leave some people behind, and we had to forge ahead. And that's what we did. Tolbert and Tolbert just celebrated 8 years. Celebrated 8 years. And our first client that ever called, Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod. Stand up, Dr. McLeod. Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod was our first ever client at Tolbert and Tolbert. And the reason I tell this story is because we talk about obstacles and how to overcome those obstacles. One of the ways that you overcome those obstacles is to have great mentors. I was blessed to have very great mentors. I had Brother John McLeod. I had my dad. I had Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod. And when we opened our firm, we went into the building, the lights not working, the heat not working. We have no clients. I remember the first day, we're sitting there and we're looking at the phone, and the phone is not ringing. You remember this? The phone is not ringing. We're like, did we make a mistake? And then the phone finally rang. And the person on the other end of that phone was Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod. And she said, where you are is where I'm going to be, and I'm going to transfer all my work to you. And I will forever, ever be indebted to her for that gracious act and gratitude that she showed on us. And that's what I would tell all of you in this room, because when you have people that are trying to do good things, you have to be a friend. You have to be a mentor. You have to guide them. If you see people that are divergent or going off the wrong path, pull them to the side. Sometimes you got to be a little harsh. You got to talk to them a little sternly, but do it from a position of love. And that's what I would say. Get great mentors in your life. Put God first. Marry a good woman, marry a good husband, whichever way you want to go. And don't listen to the naysayers, and don't let people put artificial roadblocks in your way. And that's how I'll end. Thank you very much.